Hello, dear viewer. You look beautiful today. Speaking of beautiful, I asked my dearest viewers to send me the most beautiful song they've ever heard, and today I'm going to rank them on this tier list here. It's about the size of it. Let's hop in. The Lizard King 2002 says Brother Unplugged by Alice in Chains. I'm a sucker for the acoustic grunge scene, and I think you're fully aware of that. I'm not going to surprise anyone here and just say that this is peak. I don't think I'd call it a highlight of the Unplugged session, to be honest, at least for me. But you genuinely can't go wrong with a single track on this show. I'm going to go S tier. I Snort Crouton says Foregone by Quedeca. A brutal self-reflection for the main character of this concept album, wondering why everyone has left since he was a child. All I can do is remain truly encapsulates the feeling of being helpless to everything around you other than your own existence. I haven't actually heard this project top to bottom, but I've certainly heard it glazed a couple hundred times as, at the very least, the peak of YouTuber music. That might be true. It's a really well-written track. Reminds me a lot of Sufjan Stevens and just the sheer beauty kind of captured here. Very larger-than-life track, if that makes sense to you. I'll say back of the S tier. Kona Peep says Farewell Transmission by Songs Oya. This has the most beautiful lyricism I've ever heard, and it blows my mind that they recorded this live in one take because the production sounds so damn good. This is pretty peak stuff right here. It's an album that's been on my to-do list for the last 700 years or so, but man, this track here I have heard a couple times, and it's excellent. Pretty solid vocals here, but the highlight is certainly this cool little riff that kind of repeats throughout the track. It's just a very soothing listen. I'm sure you throw on while you drive home from a funeral. I don't know if that's relatable. It's the first thing that came to my head. This is a go-tier track. Alazar Biru says Rough Boy by ZZ Top. I don't think I get it. It sounds like Journey to me, I'm afraid. And don't take that as Journey hate. No, sir. But it's a genre of music I typically find pretty surface level and definitely oversaturated. Probably the case here. Very solid track. I'm not leaping towards the speaker to turn this off, but I'm probably not throwing it on myself either. It does have some pretty sensational guitar work, though. Say B tier. Jonathan Lefton says Famous Prophets Minds by Car Seat Headrest. Track from one of my personal favorite records, kinda, but not really. The original rendition of a track later remastered in 2018, and I love that 2018 song to death. While I wouldn't say this is better than that one, it's got maybe 70% of the charm, just a little less polished, which I do think works really well with this song thematically, but certainly not quite as easy on the ears. I'll say S tier, Behind the Chains. Hazonia 2535 says I Live the Cheetah by Hum. This is pretty sensational stuff, for sure. Hum is pretty much exclusively known for the zebra, but this album certainly has its moments, this track being one of those. Really strong shoegazy guitar here, everything else is kind of drowned out by that guitar, but it's so sick you kind of just forget. Vocally, I've never been too impressed by these fellas, I wouldn't say. Can't say anything's changed here, but this is damn good stuff. I'm gonna go back of the S tier. Box of Rock says Storm by Godspeed You Black Emperor. First time I heard this song, it discouraged me from making any music because of the pure raw beauty on display. I knew I would never be able to top that. I had to sit down in shock and disbelief, mouth agape due to the pure and utter beauty. I've talked about it many, many times at this point, but there's a reason a lot of the elitist music cats think this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. It kinda just is. Some of the most beautiful shit ever really composed in every facet. Another track that just feels larger than life and is able to paint an indescribably vivid picture with no words, just sheer musicianship. It's indescribably good. Top of the go tier for sure. Rodrigo Corona 1917 says When the Sun Hits by Slowdive. The best way to put it to words is that it's melancholically comforting. I'd say the same about the entire Souvlaki album. For sure an incredibly hard album to kind of place. Certainly got an intrinsic darkness to it, but like you said, there's also this indescribable beauty. It's comforting in a way. This is one of the highest peaks the shoegaze genre has ever hit, if you ask me. Better than all of Loveless combined. Incredible lyricism, very cathartic listen, a track you watch a sunset to and then kind of sob uncontrollably, something like that. Back of the go tier. Miracle 9170 says You and I by Stevie Wonder. Mr. Wonder, one of the goats of this whole music shindig, in almost unanimous fashion. Very few Stevie Wonder haters out there, and there's good reason for that. He just writes such beautiful and quite honestly, some easy-ass music to listen to. There's nothing truly devastating about this track, but it just tugs on all the right strings. It pushes all the right buttons in a beautifully simple way. An incredible track. I wouldn't say one of his best, but a track that certainly paved the way for his best work later. I'm going to go top of the S tier. Shag Nasty VA says Broad Ripple is Burning by Margot and the Nuclear So-and-Sos. Extremely nostalgic track, though I'm almost 100% sure I've never heard it. There's a certain beauty in music that arises from acoustic tracks like this. It's one of the rawest ways to kind of tell a story, I think. There's nothing particularly jaw-dropping about this track. There's a beauty here that feels almost natural. Everything about this track just works so well in tandem with each other. The vocals are phenomenal here, and there's a harmonica. I fucking love the harmonica. I'm gonna go top of the S tier for this track. Schmallen says Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel. Certainly a beautiful track, I can't really deny that, but I honestly didn't really care for it that much. It's kind of just a beautiful piano and soft vocals. Lyrically, it's a pretty potent track, pretty dark, pretty impactful. Very sweet stuff, but there's not really too much going on here musically. Great vocals, though. I'm gonna go A tier. Blazers125 says Heroes by David Bowie. One of those songs that you may hear every now and then, but it never fails to put you in your feels. Probably flat out my favorite Bowie song of all time. Absurdly beautiful message coupled with absurdly beautiful instrumentation. It's just a very human song coming from this larger-than-life figure. Very bittersweet moment of reflection and longing from a man you kind of thought had it all figured out. Or at least hoped he did. I'm gonna go tier, Behind Storm. I'm Late to School says Hold My Liquor by Kanye West. The song sounds like driving down a highway at night. Not sure I'd describe this one as beautiful, to be honest. It's a pretty solid track. I wouldn't say one of Kanye's best by any means, but a lot of this track is heavily carried by the relatively incredible conclusion at the end. The instrumental breakdown at the end of this track is sick as shit, but I kind of just find myself waiting for that part when I listen to this song. I'm gonna go back of A tier for Mr. West.
Only aggressive, not free, we only licensed, not compassionate, only polite. Now who the nice?
Cyborg4234 says Thieves in the Night by Blackstar. This is also peak stuff. It's no secret Mos Def is one of my favorite rappers of all time, so it's probably no surprise I love this album to death. But this song is one of the best on the album for sure. It's a really simple track production-wise. It's just a very slow piano melody, but it just lets these two fellas tell the story they want to tell. And when Mos Def is telling a story, you best believe I'll be seated. That sounded dumb. Behind Bowie in the GOAT tier. The Quark414 says, Please Let Me Wonder by the Beach Boys. I haven't heard nearly enough Beach Boys to definitively say this. This might be my favorite track from these guys, period. Really well produced, especially for its time, and the vocals here are just absolutely angelic. The layering couldn't have been done much better. This is fantastic stuff. Very beautiful. I had a great time. Above Slow Dive in the GOAT tier. E.334 says Sex Tape by Deftones. Angelic all the way through. If beauty is the word, I can't think of many better songs. Chino delivers maybe flat out his most beautiful performance of all time, and it's just such an immersive and atmospheric track. It really just takes you to another world in a way that a lot of other songs strive to do but can't. The instrumentation here is just as ethereal as his voice. It all just flows so well. One of, if not, the best Deftones song, period. Top of the GOAT tier. Evox1999 says, I just wasn't made for these times by the Beach Boys. This one hits me hard because it's a song about loneliness and alienation. It captures that feeling perfectly, but at the same time, it almost feels like the song is telling you it's going to be okay when it's over. Like after a good cry. It really captures that feeling almost everyone has had at some point. That perhaps something is wrong and you just don't belong anywhere. Yeah, this is pretty peak stuff. Perhaps a bit more lyrically potent than the last Beach Boys track, but it doesn't really sacrifice much to get there. Honestly, everything I kind of said about the last one, it's just very well done. It's a very beautiful track. Incredibly tender, really sweet listen. These guys might know a thing or two about this whole music thing. Great stuff. Top of the S tier. Leo Picare says Location by Madison Cunningham. The song just has that Radiohead effect where you feel transported to another dimension. This is actually pretty damn good. Really sweet instrumentals, very Fiona Apple coded. If you're a fan of her, you'll definitely like this. I think this is the second track I've heard from Miss Cunningham here, and I still don't see much Radiohead. This is a really good song, and I do see a lot of Fiona Apple. I had fun. S tier, behind Alice in Chains. Solomon McGuire says, While My Guitar Gently Weeps with Tom Petty and Prince. I think everybody knows this track, one of the most beloved songs from these Beatle fellas. Incredible on all fronts. Tom Petty and Prince's appearance on this track just adds a little more salt to an already near 10 out of 10 track. Some of the best guitar heard within the Beatles' career, I'd say. An easy and free GOAT tier. I'm gonna go Behind the Owl. Lisa E says, I Want to Be Adored by Stone Roses. Really great track right here, too. An almost indescribable one, to be honest. I think it's in that dream pop genre, which is a genre I enjoy quite a bit, but even so, this is just really strong. Very light sounding track, really strong vocals as well, and some pretty excellent instrumentation to back it all up. The intro bit I thought was a little weird, kind of dragged, but not weird enough to hate on this track, I wouldn't say. I'm gonna go S tier behind Beach Boys. Rilla Frizzer says Comforting Sounds by Mute. Pretty great stuff, actually. Not really sure how to compare it, to be honest. It's a very unique track, really sensational stuff, and certainly doesn't feel as long as its 8-minute runtime. Really strong on all fronts. I like the vocals a lot, but the instrumentation is certainly the real meat and potatoes here. Very grand sounding song, especially towards the end of the track. It concludes really, really well. I'm going to go behind Alice in Chains in the S tier. D Peniston 84 says Number 3 by Aphex Twin. Gotten teary-eyed to songs several times before, but to this day, the only song I've ever full-on cried to is Number 3 by Aphex Twin. Can't say it quite brought me to tears, but this is some seriously sensational stuff. Certainly out of my wheelhouse, but it just creates a very vivid picture of a scene I don't really picture all that often in music. It's an almost desolate sound. Sounds a lot like the end of the world, to be honest, like a barren wasteland. It's extremely unique. I've never heard anything like it. I'm gonna go S tier behind Stone Roses. Snipo233 says Cry for the Black Sun by Intestine Ballism. I don't know how beautiful I'd call this grown man grumbling in my ear. End of my sentence. Cool guitar, I think, but I wouldn't say it's absurdly unique in the scheme of death metal. I'm gonna go back of A, but I don't think beauty's the word here, fellas. Digital Fred 27 says Release by Pearl Jam. Eddie's vocals are just amazing in this, same with the instrumentation. Never been too wowed by this track, to be honest. It's a very solid one, but not one I often think about, even within their own catalog. The bonus track at the end as well, extremely forgettable. I'm not typically sticking around for that. Not a bad song by any means, but not all that beautiful again. And not a real highlight of their stuff either. I'm gonna go top of B. It's alright to cry. Blair Army 3289 says Deep Peace live in Plobdiv by Devin Townsend. Makes me ascend every time I listen to it. Pretty sweet stuff, really sensational guitar for sure, especially live. I can imagine this show would have been absolutely ridiculous to attend. It's a lot of kind of showing off the guitar for sure, for most of the track at least, but it's hard to mind when it sounds as incredible as it does. When the vocals do finally kick in, honestly the song kind of gets worse. I didn't really care for the ending, but the build-up and the guitar work itself is seriously incredible. I'll give you that. I'm going to go back to the S tier. Aaron MWW says Coalesced by Four Against. Solid track. That's all I have. Pretty strong instrumentation for sure. Vocally solid stuff. Everything about this screams solid to me, but nothing's really knocking my socks off. I do quite like the ending sequence. Reminds me of Goo Goo Dolls a little bit. I hope that didn't offend you. But it's definitely got that late 90s, early 2000s sound to it. I'm going to go A tier behind Kanye. Harry Main says Vigilante by Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe. The pinnacle of salsa and likely the only one to make me cry from the peak. Pretty sensational track right here too. I'd be lying if I said I was incredibly in touch with the salsa scene, but I'm certainly interested in the genre after this. Really unique instrumentation on this track. And another track that certainly doesn't feel its length. Incredibly hard not to bust a move here. That's the highest praise I can really give. Excellent stuff and very beautiful. I'm going to say go tier behind Mr. Bowie. RJ Scooper says Famous Prophets by Car Seat Headrest. That whole album is really hard to get through without at least tearing up a little bit. That one song in particular doesn't pull any punches. And with that in mind, the production on it doesn't hold back either. Chef's Kiss. This one might have confused you a little bit, dear viewer, but this is not the same song I talked about earlier. This is the remade version of that track that I mentioned. And this, on the other hand, is one of my favorite songs on the planet. Everything about it is seriously incredible. The build-up, its erratic nature. It's genuinely one of the greatest songs I've ever heard. A tearjerker for sure. And a beautiful track. I'm going to go top of the GOAT tier. Half-Eaten Donut 24 says Father and Son by Cat Stevens. Such a beautiful tearjerker for me. When I first heard it, still makes me sob. Yeah, this is peak stuff. Type of song you throw on and tilt back your favorite bottle of poison. I'm more of a Fight Test fan myself, though I'm fully aware they stole that shit from this song. But this song's beauty is in its simplicity, I think. It's a universal message of kind of grief and almost longing, coupled with a beautiful acoustic guitar and some pretty solid vocals. Recipe for success. I'm going GOAT tier behind the Owl. Unto13 says some shit in Japanese by Kinoku Teikoku. Makes rainy days brighter for me. First heard this project the other day, actually, and I gotta say, this is an egregiously underrated shoegaze project. Sensational guitar work as you come to expect in the genre, but also some really clean vocals. I've got no complaints here. This is excellent stuff. I'm gonna go GOAT tier behind the Beatles. Metalman4133 says, Any Color You Like by Pink Floyd. Such a beautiful resting point in the context of such a hauntingly beautiful album, especially for those first-time listens. I'll never forget the way I felt when I first heard this song. It seemed to be otherworldly. Sure, certainly a strange track to highlight off this project, but the more I think about it, this album just wouldn't be complete without it. It is a very cathartic moment on the record. It feels like it ties the whole thing together, at least puts a nice bow on it, a nice little pink bow. Really great track, especially for its time, some fairly ridiculous production, and David Gilmour just kind of tearing shit up. I'm gonna go behind Stevie in the S tier. Riedlebug says Hunger Strike by Temple of the Dog. Hunger Strike is pretty peak stuff. Honestly, it's not my favorite track on the record, but it's a great foundation that a lot of these guys would kind of build off in the future, both Pearl Jam and Chris Cornell. It's a beautiful glimpse of the future for some incredibly iconic artists, and I wouldn't replace it for the world. Really strong instrumentation as well, very melodic and satisfying listen. I'm gonna go back of the GOAT tier. J-Bar Underpar says Soma by the Smashing Pumpkins. This is a pretty great track, but I've never been as high on this track as a lot of other people are. I enjoy the start of the song, but I wouldn't say I love it. Pretty slow. Lyrically, I find it a little corny, I think. But when the song does finally erupt, I remember why I love this album so much. The guitar work is as incredible as it is throughout this whole project, but vocally this might be one of the songs the Corgan haters point to when they need an answer. Still great stuff, though, and a very beautiful track. I'm going to go back of the GOAT tier again. John RE7 says Frogs by Alice in Chains. Is this beautiful? I don't know, man. This is some seriously dark shit. It's very haunting. Perhaps in a beautiful way if I really squint. I can't see it, man. I'm sorry. Fantastic track, though. Top of B, I'm confused. Northwest Rain 2399 says It's Not Living If It's Not With You by the 1975. Impossible not to wag a finger to this, in my opinion. I'm wagging my finger all right. It's just pretty good stuff. 1975 is a band I don't give much time to, typically, but they've certainly got some great stuff buried in the sea of, well, mid. Pretty sweet track. Vocals are layered really well. Pretty upbeat track sonically, but also has kind of downer lyricism. It's pretty good stuff. I'm going to go S tier behind Mew. Aquafontaine says Teeth Like God's Shoe Shine by Modest Mouse. The song feels like if the entire concept and vibe of the Lonesome Crowded West was cut down into one song. It has its loud, kind of emo vibe and its slow indie moments that all transition so fluidly. The lyrics describe commercialization and large corporations taking over. I don't think beautiful is the word here. Does this song fuck? It certainly does. But in a way that encapsulates very little beauty, I think. It's great stuff, incredible guitar work, and some pretty strange vocals that fit very well with the music itself. A very big track again. It feels very larger than life. One of the GOATs for sure. But again, not all that beautiful, I don't think. I'm going to go top of the A tier. Oxide Like Oxide says Layla by Derek and the Dominoes. Eric Clapton's guitar work is legendary and that piano outro is just perfection. Such a beautiful song. I don't think I've ever understood this track, to be honest. The guitar work is absurd, for sure. Kind of undeniable, but it's just never really stuck with me all that much. Everything minus the guitar work, I could probably live without. Even the piano outro doesn't really click with me. I don't get it. Maybe someday, huh? I'm gonna go S tier behind Alice in Chains. Fluid Tomato says Wills Dissolve by ISIS. One of the most unique and compelling songs I've ever heard that captures such a specific mood that cannot be described by words, but only by the song itself. I think this is just about as solid as every other song I've heard from these guys. It's certainly a unique beauty, one that kind of bellows. And while I typically find it hard for metal to be beautiful, I think these guys do a pretty good job of it. Incredible instrumentation, and when there's no singing, I'm smiling pretty wide. I'm going S tier behind Layla. Alam Casa 487 says Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams. Another kind of journey core track. It's got that same vocal style. It just doesn't really work as well as I'd kind of like it to. Very crowded genre, or I guess style of music. I can't say this one sticks out in that crowd. Not bad by any means. It's just kind of some shit I'd expect at the end of The Sopranos. I hope this helps. I'm going to go back of S tier, though. Death Grips Bulgaria Official says, Save Your Love For Me by Suckers. The fact that this is the album opener for a random tiny indie band from the early 2010s is truly magical and beautiful. It's solid stuff. Certainly some unique guitar work, in a good way. Certainly some unique vocals, but in a bad way. I think the good outweighs the bad pretty heavily here. The whole ending sequence was pretty peak as the song kind of winds down. I like that a lot. I'm going to go A tier behind the Garfunkel. Kevin the Lord 5343 says, Starting Over by LSD in the Search for God. Insanely good shoegaze. I was in tears and in awe after listening to it. Pretty great track, yeah. I had fun for sure. I really enjoyed the vocals here. The layering is extremely well done, as is the instrumentation here, to be honest. It's excellent shoegaze. I'd almost say the genre taken to its limits. Just excellently executed. Fantastic stuff. I'm going Go tier behind Slow Dive. Lman1195 says, Music for a Nurse by Ocean Size. Yeah, man, this is beautiful shit right here. The mixing sounds a little weird to me, but regardless, this is excellent stuff. Really melancholic vibe. Uses these lighter vocals in a very sick way. Instrumentally, just really solid stuff. This is cool. Going S tier behind Aphex Twin. Shoegazer Production 7706 says, Headlights on the Parade by the Blue Niles. Obvious dated synths aside, it's hard to believe this thing was recorded back in 1989. They were one of the first bands that truly mastered digital recording. Some of the synths used was created from actual sampled instruments. It's a gorgeous track with a lot of really ahead of its time production, even if you are likely going to say it's a bit too busy. The track certainly was very busy, but I think this is still, it's pretty sick. The production is seriously incredible here. Very beautiful sounding track. And honestly, that's the only word that really comes to mind. It's beautiful. I had a lot of fun. I'm going to go top of the S tier. Dirtiest Bag 5202 says, It's Gonna Be Alright by Ween. Truly Ween-licious. Thank you for that. Had to get a little Ween in here. Come on. It's honestly the first Ween track that really got me hooked on the band. It's a very sweet track lyrically. You have some borderline top 10 of all time production on the Mollusk, and you've got Gene Ween in his bag. That's a recipe for success, and success they found, dear viewer. This is peak. Honestly, one of my favorite songs ever. I'm going to go tier behind Godspeed You Black Emperor. That's all I have written here. Thank you very much for watching, dear viewer. Might you spare a subscription if you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.